Good evening, Grand Rapids. It's October 1st, 8 o'clock. This is a live call-in program. Our number is 459-4881. The phones will be open soon. We have a number of topics we'll be discussing tonight. Police brutality and the militarization of the police, immigration, bed bug law, and private intellectual property law. So just let me introduce our panelists and contestants, and then we'll get to the first round of the game to see whose topic will be first tonight. Nearest to me, as you can see, Pablo Bello.
How are you?
His program is called Tiempo Latino here on GRTV, and it airs live.
The first Wednesday of every month.
First Wednesday of every month. And
sometimes.
Well, he has a website
you can visit, my website is grandrapidstiempolatino.com.
Okay. There you can see it up on the screen. So yes. Go there for your information. With him is activist, Cindy Hicks, activist and realtor.
Hello, good evening, buenas noches. I am a community activist fighting for the rights of all of our community members in the inner city and also for immigration reform. And I'm also a member of the West Michigan Coalition for Immigration Reform, which meets the first Wednesday of every month. Wednesday's a popular day for immigration. And we meet at the Catholic Information Center on the second floor at 12:15. It's a bring your own lunch kind of meeting. So it's very informative. We give government updates and how we're going to plan action steps every month.
Great, thanks, Cindy.
Yeah.
Next to Cindy, we have Mr. John Petrick. John is a guest. He's not a member of CTV, but he's got quite a story to tell, and he's your last line of defense between bed bugs and
slumlords. Slumlords who have a job called vermin, which is a state and city law that was ignored. Even the city broke the law for these slumlords, and we suffered a great wrath of hell. And it was horrible with the children, and the people who are poor should have gotten pro bono, was denied pro bono from the city of Grand Rapids themselves. We weren't going to get pro bono. No one's going to get help. Everybody loses everything, basically, but they shouldn't lose everything because there's a state and a city law, and it should be addressed the right where there should be something done about this, and it should be stopped so it doesn't happen again. Let no landlord hurt your children and get away with it or destroy your belongings.
So could we get John's information up there for when he'll be expanding on that topic tonight? I'd also like to introduce, beside John, Ann Greenwald-Schweitzer, longtime member of CTV. She was also the winning contestant, as I recall, on the last season of What Don't You Know and Why Don't You Know It? So let's play the first round. What don't you know and why don't you know it?
Whew, so excited.
The first person with three correct answers will have the privilege of taking their topic to the viewers first. Okay, question one. What percentage of U.S. Republicans say they could not live on the minimum wage? Within 2 percentage points plus or minus.
30%.
30%.
20%.
70%.
70%, we have a winner at 69%. That's within
That was pretty close.
margin of error. John has 1 point. 1 point for John.
Good job. High five.
What percentage
Thank you.
of U.S. Republicans say they would support raising the minimum wage?
30%.
20%.
Yeah, 15%.
60%.
60%?
Yeah.
It is 37%.
Okay.
No one receives a point.
No.
That's okay.
Okay, within $10 million plus or minus, how much does the state of Texas collect from undocumented workers and taxes each year?
9.2 billion.
10 billion.
I'd say a good 20 billion.
I'd say 50 million.
50 million?
Yeah.
Well, that's way low. The rest were way high. It's $1,608,534,000. Wow. Give or take a few pennies. Well, so far, only John has 1 point. If we time out, John would be the winner. So let's keep going and give the rest of you a chance here. Let's see. Percentage of U.S. counties in which the proportion of racial minorities has grown since 2010. Percentage of U.S. counties within 2 points, plus or minus. The population of racial minorities has grown.
65%.
In Michigan? Or
Nationwide.
nationwide?
Oh, nationwide?
60%.
75.
I'd say 70%.
94%. Still
That
on
was
point.
a light.
I'm a realtor.
Percentage
I know
change in
this.
the proportion of racial minorities in Washington, D.C. Since 2010. Proportion change,
60%.
95%.
up or down?
Up.
Up.
99%.
No, it's one of the few places in the U.S. where racial minority as a proportion of the population is dropping.
Oh, okay. I was
We
gonna
better
say
get
that everybody
some
from every
easier
continent's in
questions
Washington.
here.
I'm supposed to know these population questions.
Okay. Proportion of Americans who are currently taking at least one prescription drug.
90%.
55%.
I'd say good 85%.
80%.
Americans.
I'm going to give it to Cindy. It's 50%, but I'd say it's close enough. What percentage of Americans are taking at least 5 prescription drugs?
35. Go ahead.
God,
20%.
I'm going to say 40%.
40%.
I say 30%.
That's 10%. No point. You two are still tied. If either of these get the next one, then I'm going to call it a tiebreaker. I'm calling that a tiebreaker. Proportion of local government jobs lost since 2010 were in education. What proportion of jobs lost in local government were in education since
25%.
2010?
Oh, that's a time?
No,
I don't know.
Oh,
Yeah,
then
yeah.
25%.
I'd say 65%.
10%.
It's a little more.
They
about
closed a lot of
35%.
schools.
Okay, well, John was closest. It's 75% of jobs lost are in education.
Good job.
Fantastic.
Good job, John.
So, John, you go first. With your introduce the program, the news program.
Oh, all
and
right.
then we'll talk about the topic after.
I'm going to introduce you to Channel 17 when we did a report on this Morton House apartment, which held 220 people and their babies, children, and their belongings, which they got away. The city let them get away. They should have shut this building down in '09, but they didn't. They made us live through this mess. I mean, roaches as big as cats and dogs. And then came the bed bugs. They were told there's a mattress full of bed bugs right next to the elevator doors. And that's where the epidemic took off. They didn't do their job. And then when we took the babies to the office, look at her child. It looked like a bee nest, just stung this baby everywhere. We sent help. Help never came. I got help first. One got in my pants and bit my naughty area, and I ended up in the hospital. And that happened, I was 28 days later. None of the children got help first. I did. And that's what made me even sicker and madder, because a baby comes first, not a grown-up. A baby comes first from all nationalities. That same day, if not the next, that baby should have been helped and wasn't. Well, here's the city summary right there, and it tells you that they're behind it. And they should have put them, and they should have shut them down. They did not shut them down. They destroyed everything we owned. They wouldn't give us pro bono. We're less than middle class. We're at the bottom of the totem pole. These babies need justice. Send a letter to the Supreme Court. Let them know that we do deserve justice. The Morton House case. And let them know no baby should ever go unnoticed, whether you're white, black, brown, red,
All right, thank
yellow.
you, John. Let's see the
welcome.
clip, and we'll discuss it at
absolutely.
length afterwards.
Back. But bugs aren't the only issues. There are also reports of hidden black mold and pipes that leak right through the roof. I was contacted by not one or two.
Fantastic. We're being censored. Well,
Well, anyways, those were the employees telling the truth on the owner who owned the building, the dirty work they did. They hid keys, and that's what happened to us. I got to sleep outside, but the babies didn't. This is what was happening all through the day, all through the night. These babies were attacked in their cribs. Nothing was done about it. No help came for these babies. Look at those, like, hornet stings. The babies got it worse than we did.
House is a low-income apartment building that gets money from the federal government. Residents and former employees say it's
This obviously.
Stays in-house. We don't want contractors and we don't want nobody seeing what's going on.
These employees, a maintenance man, a custodian, painter, even the former general manager, say the place is a patchwork of problems.
Everything is quick fix. Boo-boo, fix it, and move on. And you can't, not in an old building like that.
The property supervisor points the finger at the tenants. They say they'll fix whatever needs to be done as long as people report it.
It is the responsibility of the residents to make sure that they provide us with prompt and efficient notice in regards to any repairs, and we have no problem with our response time in completing whatever they need to have done.
Full disclosure now, Jennifer Henney worked at the Morton House for 9 years. She said she was fired a year ago after a HUD inspection turned up some major disrepair in one of the units, and one of the tenants we interviewed has since been cited by the city for cleanliness. Now that building gets more than $1 million a year in federal funding. Now to get that money, they have to pass inspections.
Okay.
Coming up at 10, we'll take a look at the process, including why employees say they pass every year.
Well, you know, it's interesting how at the end of the piece she said, we'll fix these problems if the people who live there tell us about it. And at the beginning of your piece, you said they didn't want to go on camera because they're afraid to speak out against it.
Yes, not only that, you have some tenants there who have mental and physical disabilities. Many are elderly. Many maybe are scared, don't know how to report it. That you got to factor that in too.
But kids in the building too.
Absolutely, yeah, families.
More tonight at 10. Thank you, Carl.
Back. But bugs aren't the only issues. There are also reports of hidden black mold and pipes that leak right through the roof. I was contacted by not one or two, but 4 former employees who wanted to speak out.
People are getting sick left and right, and they're wondering, you know, what's causing this. I'm talking about normally healthy people. What's going on with my health all of a sudden?
The Morton House is owned by Saperstein and Associates near Southfield. They own at least 3 other properties in the Detroit area. On their website, the Morton House is referred to as the ultimate expression in city high-rise living. The property supervisor said they respond to the bug complaints with immediate action.
We have a full-service exterminating contractor who comes in, and we have a routine service as well as a preventative maintenance program.
But what about the disrepair? 100-year-old pipes that have created moisture and mold all over the place.
Well, I was always told when I was first started there, everything stays in-house. We don't want contractors and we don't want nobody seeing what's going on.
These employees, a maintenance man, a custodian, painter, even the former general manager, say the place is a patchwork of problems.
Everything is quick fix. Boo-boo, fix it, and move on.
Welcome back.
That's what we went through. That's what the children went through in their cribs.
Welcome back here on CTV. You're watching CTV October 1st. This is a live call-in show. Our phones are open. 459-4881 is our number. Now, John, how many years did you live at Morton House?
I lived there since 2008 until 2011.
2011.
Yeah.
I would like to collaborate his story. I actually had
Corroborate.
2
Well, they tricked
collaborate.
me. They tricked me. They said we didn't, you know, the apartment looked nice. The next day I woke up after signing the contract, there was roaches everywhere. It's like, how did you do that?
I
They
had-
disappeared.
I had 2 friends
Oh,
that
yeah,
lived there
freezing.
that lived there 15 years each person. They lived there a really long time. They were very clean people. They had all their food in storage containers. There was a night that I spent there, and you could hear the roaches everywhere. One friend was infested with bed bugs, and they took her furniture and gave her nothing. So I can verify that Yes, the place was infested.
Right. This one was.
I didn't spend the night there after she told me there.
Right. Well, they left the mattress out in front of 2 doors. They wouldn't do their job. They left this mattress, and I've never seen a bed bug in my life until today. There was millions of them all over this mattress. They connected people's feet floor to floor, all the way to the entranceway from apartment to apartment. And this is what happened because the landlord wouldn't do her job by law, the vermin law. And even the city let them get away with the roaches, but they didn't let them get away with the bed bugs.
Well, tell us about this legal case. Is it?
It's still pending. We're in Supreme Court house right now, and I need all the mothers, fathers, grandmothers, grandpas, uncles, aunts, brothers, sisters, whoever. Please write a letter to the Supreme Court house. It's on Ottawa Street, Lansing.
Well, how do letters affect a court?
I think it would affect, because we do deserve pro bono, we do deserve trial, jury trial, and we deserve justice for what they did to our children and us and our belongings. We never got nothing back. My dad passed and he left me this bed. I ain't never gonna get this back. And if I had taken it with me, I would have spread this virus somewhere else.
Virus? You mean bed bugs?
Bed bugs and roaches. They're infested all the furniture. I mean, I had some very nice things, and there was no way you could take it with you. And if you did take anything with you, you're spreading it.
Well, and I can verify that some of the people did leave there.
Yeah.
There is a place in Wyoming where it has reinfestation because people had no furniture. And it came from the Morton house, and it is there, and it is happening.
Indeed, it does spread.
And when I went to pick up a friend, the dumpsters were loaded with furniture because they did another sniff, and they're just not replacing. People have no way to replace furniture. I really think there needs to be some kind of fund set up because people have to have a bed. They got to have a chair. You can't take everything someone else. And they need to be stripping carpet, scrubbing walls, repainting. I mean, the bugs go in the wood, and I don't think people understand that they lay eggs, and and when you don't have money to wash every single curtain and clothes and bedding, I mean, you're talking hundreds of dollars.
They didn't have hot water in their washrooms. There was like 50-degree cold water, so the hot water didn't work, and it kept progressing. It kept overpopulating, and it was just, no help came. The greed of their money, that's what it was, greed. They didn't want to spend that money. They knew they're selling their building. They knew the 40-year contract was up. And why was the city letting them get away with this? By law, you broke the law. They're supposed to be working for the law, not breaking the law, but they broke the law for this landlord. And I got it right here. It's a summary. And it tells you right there, buildings infested, and treatment does not work. They treatment every month, and it doesn't work. Why didn't they go week to week then? But they didn't care about us or our children.
Now, let me understand this. This is a class action suit, and you're suing the owners of Morton House and the city?
I want to go after the city too. I want this lady fired for, what do you call that? She insubordinated her job. You're supposed to be working for the government. You're supposed to be working to fight for these laws, and you broke the law yourself.
You're trying to get her fired in court.
Well, that too, she deserves to be dismissed, because if she'd seen the children I seen in that building, and you seen the pictures of my body, how I was attacked, you should have seen the children. And justice wasn't there for these babies.
I'm wondering.
At least I am.
Yes,
I'm wondering what kind of county health department, what responsibility our Kent County Health Department has for helping people. It just seems like there's some negligence there from our county government. The health department, should be helping with health epidemics.
I was dismissed from every court that I went to. I kept appealing, and I bet you I've been to 10 different hearings, oral argument, 10 different times, and I was dismissed every time. So we're
how
like
did it
I'm
get
saying,
to the Supreme Court?
Yeah, we're now. I went all the way to Lansing with this, all by myself. My friend Caroline, who lived in the Morton House, I can't remember her last name, but she died at St. Mary's Hospital, and she told me before she died, keep fighting for the kids, Johnny. And you know what? I'm going to continue. I do believe in a good higher power, and kids do come first. So right to the Supreme Court, let them know we do deserve justice.
I still don't understand how writing the Supreme Court could do any good.
Well, they broke the law, and just having people.
What does the Supreme Court care about letters? Well, wouldn't you be better off writing letters to elected officials? Well, I guess the Supreme Court in this state is elected.
That's the highest court that I know of. So if I got to go to Washington, I'm going to Washington for this
come
too.
up with some bribes.
Sure. I'm agree with Cindy. Like maybe you can go and talk to the Kent County Health Department.
I did.
They had to do something about
I
it.
got a letter from Attorney General too,
There is,
and they said they
Yeah.
couldn't do nothing. And it's like, I don't understand why.
The Attorney General is a Republican who is backed by some of the most powerful realtors and rental property owners in the state of Michigan.
If it happened to their child, it'd be a whole new block of cheese. I guarantee you. If it was their child and it was me, the landlord, who hurt their child and destroyed their property because I didn't obey the vermin law, and it was my building, I can guarantee you I would have been persecuted and prosecuted. But not these people because they're richer than I. That's how I feel about it. You know, it's terrible to say it like that, but it's true. They got all this money and you couldn't spend $1 for a child who's they're in your building. It's your fault that you didn't take care of your job like the state laws require you to take care of. Even the city was with you breaking that law. So what do you do about that? You know, and that's what I need. I need your guys' help. I need everybody to send millions of letters to the Supreme Court House. Let them know we mean business for our kids here in Grand Rapids, and any state for that matter. Any child that needs help from any part of this United States, they're number one. All children are.
Okay, John, thanks. I'm going to skip the next round of the game and just go on to, how about Cindy? This is another topic of miscarriage of justice, not only of police brutality, but of police negligence. So I think that it follows nicely from your topic. If Cindy would talk about her recent experiences.
Recent experience. I'm so grateful for public TV, and I will let you know why. I recently called some of the major news network, but they didn't seem to think that what happened to me and my girls was important. Saturday night at 7:30 p.m., I was a couple of blocks from my house on the four-way stop of Delaware and Lafayette, and there was a group of kids on the corner, and a 10 to 13-year-old boy launched an explosive through my back window of my truck, where it exploded, and all I saw was red as I was going forward through an intersection, and a loud boom above my 5-year-old's head, who's sitting in the middle. So I'm in a 3-seat truck. I don't have anywhere to go, and I'm terrified because I don't know what came in my truck other than it's a loud boom. I'm shaking. I'm terrified. There's sparks all over in our hair. I was only just trying to take my kids to, Flicks Family Film Festival movies. I mean, I don't think it has anything to do with I live in the wrong neighborhood. Any neighborhood should be safe for children. Any neighborhood should be safe to drive through. My only idea that I could come up with is that because we're having art prize in our town, nobody wants to know that someone is throwing explosives into cars. And I do have a report number from the police. It's a legitimate complaint. I'm extremely just terrified that this is considered acceptable behavior. And when I jumped out of the truck, a child's yelling to me and my daughters, and I realize I have to watch my language on public TV, that we need to die B-I-T, and said that word. And that to me was very horrible, to have my daughters know that someone out there cares so little about human life that they'd like to see us dead. And it was a child doing this. So, I am chasing the kid down because I'm just determined that I'm going to catch the little naughty thing and grab him.
How old do you think he was?
Probably between the ages of 10 and 13. And my main goal was I want to catch him and get him off the street. He's not safe.
But you know what? You can get in trouble for doing that.
Yes, the 911 operator told me that I had to stop chasing him.
It's a minor, and if you touch a minor, you can go to jail.
Right, but my daughters, my one daughter was burned. She has 2nd-degree burns on her bottom because the fire burned a hole in my seat an inch thick.
This isn't the first time this has happened to you.
No, this is actually the second time where I randomly was driving down the road and a kid took a large boulder and threw it into my window where my little girl was sitting. This is the second incident in 1 year.
And you had an incident at your house, but what they all have in common is how the police responded.
The problem is when the police got there on scene, they were like, yeah, did you get a good description of his face? Well, it's hard to see somebody when you're chasing them. And I did listen to the 911 operator who told me, I need to stop because he might have a gun. And I'm like thinking, this kid's not playing with guns. He's playing with explosives. But next will be guns.
Didn't bring a canine out?
No, and it was, they snapped a couple of pictures. My hand was burnt from putting the fire out of my kid's hair.
Wow.
And yeah, I mean, it took skin off my hands.
But really, what do you expect the police to do if you don't have a description?
yeah.
Well, if they bring a
took one-
canine out on it for a robbery,
Yeah,
they
they
should do
took
that for
one.
that.
They took
to
one
trace him on the
picture.
pavement?
One picture of my seat, and there was burns all over. When by the time like I got home, I counted 4 burns. There was 3 on the bottom where all of us sat, so all of us got burned. And then above our head, there was a burn right there. There's ashes all over the back window. There's ashes on the bed of the truck, like permanently burned into the paint. You know, and I
understand that, but I don't understand how you can expect the police to do something about it if you don't know who it was. But on the other hand, you were talking about an incident where some windows were broken in your house by some, and there were witnesses to that.
But it was the same officer. That's what I want to tell you.
The same officer with the same nonchalant attitude.
Well, it was like basically his attitude was, by the way, here's your report number. You don't need to show up to the detective unit, because the probability of this case getting solved is pretty low.
Oh, the one with the hat in?
Yeah.
That was the response. And so, I mean, as far as I know, we have cameras up and down our street. I mean, they like to spy on us, but you can't find a child that's blowing up a car. You know, that. So I did call the detective unit on Monday. No one returned my phone call. I called again today. They said they were thinking about they were going to assign the case to. And so I called the news again, and they just wanted to know how much damage was done to my car. And I'm like, my kids are traumatized.
Now, what was the neighborhood again? What was the corner?
Oh, this was Delaware and Lafayette.
Delaware and Lafayette.
And then earlier this year, it was Burton and Madison. And I also called the police, and they just said, oh, we're really sorry. Unless you can tell us what the kid looks like, we probably can't find him. But I was following him with my car.
Do you know of anyone else who's had this experience? It sounds like they do this sort of thing.
It just sounds to me like they don't really care. It
certainly sounds like that. So we're talking about police.
Especially if you don't drive a Porsche. I mean, I drove a minivan then, and this is a work truck. And then they keep cutting money. The county, the state of Michigan cut the county funds for mental health. So there was a person that lived next door to me that had mental illness issues. He did not have anybody checking on him, so the system is failing him. And he was on antipsychotic medication, and he thought someone was trying to kill him and took a hammer and beat out all of our windows and our front door. And I called the police earlier that morning because he took the hammer and hit our truck and put a dent and our house. So he'd already dented 2 things. And then at this time, I begged the police to please take him in because we don't have a front door to protect ourselves. And our windows were gone, so he could just come in our house if he wanted to and kill us all. And I explained to the police that you would never tolerate this in your neighborhood. You would never tolerate someone badgering your family or your wife. It's only because of I live on the southeast side and you just don't care. You just don't care. And I found this really unacceptable, and there's not been any money to cover our stuff, nothing, and I don't really foresee that they're gonna give us any money. On top of the, we've talked to a counselor because my kids really are frightened now to be by themselves and in a car, and and I don't really have a lot of respect for the way that the police handle things. And all I can tell you is that I've lived in the city a really long time. It's been more than 18 years that I've been a resident here, no, 20 years now, of Grand Rapids. And when I did first move here, I was pulled over a lot. I lived on the southeast side, and there wasn't hardly any Caucasian people that lived. Well, there were none.
So you were profiled as
I was
a drug
profiled.
buyer?
Yep, I actually cleaned a huge nonprofit at night while I went to beauty school, and so I worked second shift, and I would get stopped at least once a month, and that was before they enacted laws where a female officer had to check you. So even though they could read my driver's license of my address and where I lived, they would repeatedly pull me over so they could touch me and grope me and ask me if I was a prostitute and if I sold drugs, because why else would I be in that area? And I'm like,
All right,
I
Cindy.
live there.
All right, Cindy, we're going to get back to you on that. You perhaps have heard of the 3 officers in Oklahoma who were recently arrested for serial raping women they would stop. And their police chief said if the women didn't want to be raped, they should follow the traffic laws.
Yeah, they said that right out loud.
Wow.
We're going to move on because Ann has got a report and some clips on Aaron Schwartz's suicide, his
yeah.
case. So if Ann
Well,
would-
occasionally the CTV Society covers current topics, which are also topics of popular, well-made documentaries. We often use these documentaries to show some footage, and we make some good points. I guess at some point in the future on this show, I want to talk about net neutrality. But I want to tell you about this documentary I saw. It was released at the end of June of this year. Before the announcement of this death, it was in January 2013, I had never heard of Aaron Schwartz, but it was all over my news feed, it was on TV, it was on my Facebook. The way it was portrayed, it was like this really powerful person had been assassinated or something, so I wanted to know who this person was. He seemed to be so admired, and why did he commit suicide? Aaron Schwartz was an open internet activist. He was a computer program, he was a writer, he was a political organizer, and he was a contributor to political, technical blogs and media. He helped to launch Reddit, the social news site, Creative Commons, which works to make user policies like have more common sense, instead of all rights reserved, kind of things like some rights reserved and how that works. He was more than a contributor to Wikipedia. He was one of the editors. What else did he do? He was, in 2010, he was a research fellow at Harvard to study institutional corruption, and he could do this all by, doing his hacking activities. He was instrumental in stopping SOPA, the Stop Online Piracy Act of 2012. Nobody really wants their work pirated, but if SOPA had passed, it would have shut down any internet service provider who was even accused of violating copyright. I don't know if you guys remember a couple of years ago when you went on your internet or the browser and everything was like temporary blacked out on purpose, and it says if you don't want to see this permanently happen, go and sign this this petition to stop SOPA. Well, Aaron was the one who orchestrated that whole thing. And what he did was, the Library of Congress has a data set, and it's charged a lot of money to access their records, and what he did was he downloaded them all and donated it to this open access library site. And he did the same thing with PACER, which is the court records, the open access court records. Except that was the one that first drew the attention of the FBI. They never pressed charges on that because it is public, but this one court system were charging so much that they had millions in budget surpluses. And so that kind of put a little dent in it. Let me see, the details. Well, when he was, ultimately he was charged in 2000, and it was either 2010, 2011. What he did was he was working at Harvard at the time, and MIT has like an open access policy, and he had an account with JSTOR, and he would, JSTOR was the producer, or they kept the database of all the academic research papers, and they also charged a lot of money for these academic research articles and things. Now, these were work that was paid for with taxpayer dollars, but to access it, you had to pay all this money. And so what was happening was JSTOR was making millions and millions of dollars for these publishers whose employees were just sitting behind desks collecting this money, taking all the cream off the crop. And so he went into a open door, a closet that was used for janitorial supplies, and had some of the electrical systems for the computer system, and he downloaded the articles off JSTOR. He was filmed and he was arrested. There were some federal charges against him, and there was some state of Massachusetts charges. What happened is when the state of Massachusetts dropped their charges and MIT and JSTOR refused or declined to press charges, the federal charges against him went from 4 counts up to 13 counts, which would put him in prison for 50 years and like millions of dollars in fine. And so what happened was they offered him a plead guilty to this felony. You'll spend 6 months and you won't be able to do these things with any of your computer. And his defense attorneys and Schwartz rejected it. But ultimately, he had to go to trial. And before he went to trial, he killed himself. And I think he wanted to, rather than be a felon, he wanted to die.
Did he leave a note?
He did not leave a note.
Well, what he was trying to do was to open these archives, no, from
government-funded research that was being sold only to people who could afford it. In other words, giving them a huge advantage in the legal system to have access to this type of research.
And not only that, like archives from universities, you know,
Correct.
from Stanford, from Harvard. He wanted to open this flow of information to the whole world, you know, to share this information to.
And they have a right to recover their expenses out of this, which you can do by charging for the program, you know. But instead, they were charging 10 cents a page, 12 cents a page.
Well, they
and
still charge, huh?
Yeah, but they were making too much money. So let's go to the clip.
First, let's ask why our number isn't on the screen. I have been saying this is a call-in show since the beginning. It's 459-4881. We don't have any callers, then let's go to the clip, and we'll be back. We'll be back with you in a minute to take your calls. Can we hear this? Internet's own boy.
Reddit fought for a free and open internet, but a US government case against the programmer is thought to have driven him to suicide at the age of 26. RT's Marina Portnaya spoke to the director of the documentary about Swartz's legacy.
Freedoms our country had been built on would be suddenly deleted. I couldn't let that happen.
He was known as the online Robin Hood. The Internet's Own Boy is an independent documentary that looks at the life of a prodigy, programmer, and activist.
Stop sober!
Aaron Swartz fearlessly fought against government efforts to censor the internet, but it was the relentless federal prosecution against him that supporters say caused Swartz to commit suicide in January 2013 at the age of 26.
Aaron Swartz was not a criminal.
As a teenager, Swartz helped build RSS coding and web application framework. He was the technical architect of Creative Commons and one of the co-founders of Reddit.
A significant turn in Aaron's life happened when they sold Reddit to Condé Nast. He became a very rich 19-year-old, and instead of continuing along that kind of startup path, he made a really decisive turn towards political organizing and social justice issues, and used his skills really in the service of public interest.
And what he cared about was making public information truly public, that is, free and accessible to everyone.
It's certainly a part of his nature. It's a part of the fabric of his being, and you see that in the film right from the beginning. This idea that it's not just enough to live in the world, that you can push beyond that you can question your surroundings, question the status quo.
And here, on RT, Swartz would appear as a frequent guest, questioning more about government surveillance and the erosion of privacy.
And in fact, they provided no evidence of the Patriot Act successfully being used to catch any terrorists. They admit that the courts have said what they're doing is illegal. And now they want Congress to rubber stamp it anyway.
Aaron was fiercely passionate, driven by justice, but also filled with humility. Every time he visited our New York bureau for interviews, he was gracious and incredibly kind. The last time I spoke with Aaron, we discussed cyber warfare and the vulnerabilities citizens face online. 3 months later, he was gone. Despite his tragic death, Swartz's story was far from over. Through a Kickstarter campaign, a documentary about his life raised nearly $94,000 in funding from supporters and donors.
It showed us that there was a real community of people that wanted to hear this story and that were outraged and angry and about what had happened to Aaron, but also, I think, inspired by him.
Inspired to remember a young man who helped build the internet and spent his life fighting to keep it in the hands of the public. Marina Portnaya, RT, New York.
The documentary is it's now available free on YouTube. If you're
Free on YouTube. Before we go on with anything else, let's take this phone call from Lee. Lee, are you on the line? Hello? Hello? Hello, that's a bit loud over here. Can you, I think it's okay now. Try again. Hello?
Hello.
Hello, perfect. Aren't you going to talk about the midterm elections?
I am.
Go ahead, please.
Okay. I'm calling to make an appeal to people to not give up. We need to be conscious of the children that are just starting their lives and of their children. And Michigan is such an incredible place, such a beautiful place. And it seems to me like, as regards the elections, our choices are really clear. You know, we can either go for the people who are linked up to the very wealthy, or we can go for the people who care about people like us. And there's a very clear delineation between the two, most certainly in the categories of governor and in the senator races. Snyder's all about tax breaks for the wealthy at the expense of education, of roads, of sewer systems, of state services. Whereas Mark Schauer is the son of a teacher and a nurse. He's been involved in Habitat for Humanity and Head Start, for heaven's sakes. Obviously, somebody who cares about people. And Snyder has just put us down the tubes as far as job growth and just quality of life, whereas Mark Schauer cares about us. And Landon Peters, it's the same contrast. Landon's in the pocket of the Koch brothers and Betsy DeVos, and she thinks dark money is a good thing for democracy. She flat out stated that. And Betsy DeVos responded saying, yes, and I'm tired of people saying that I expect favors for my money. Well, I do. That's all there is to it. And on the other hand, we have Gary Peters, who's linked with Occupy Wall Street, Occupy Detroit. He's endorsed by unions. He was instrumental in creating the Consumer Protection Act, the United Nations Population Fund. He's one of the good guys. So please, Schauer and Peters. And can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you just fine. You've met Gary Peters?
I have not met Gary Peters. I have met Mark Schauer.
Oh.
And he's a good man. I'll tell you somebody else I've met who I fell totally in love with. And that is the Deborah Thomas, who is running for Supreme Court judge. Deborah Thomas, African American woman, gorgeous broad smile, amazingly charismatic, fabulous speaker. But more than that, I was just watching some videos from her. I quote, she said, I have a philosophy that the law should be designed to serve the interests of the common man. And she is passionate, she is fair-minded, she is a beautiful person. So I just wanted to put in a plug, Mark Schauer, Gary Peters, Judge Deborah Thomas, and please let's not give up. We have such a, the world needs our input, for heaven's sakes. We can't just sit back. The kids who are coming up, we've perhaps all lived, half or more than half of our lives, but this is still their nascent world, and they need us to make it as good as we can. And this, to my mind, is one way to do it.
Thanks a lot, Lee. Anyone else endorse those candidates?
Yes, definitely. Snyder is like for the rich. He's just giving tax breaks to the millionaires. Like they need some breaks,
Yeah.
And cutting services, they just cut sports in Southwest Community Campus.
Gutted. There is no sports for our kids. That was a statewide cut.
And there are these commercials on TV running over and over that he didn't cut the budget for education, but I can just he's just a liar, He says that he didn't cut money for education, and in my
we do need more education for our children. We need a superhero for our children.
The school where my daughter goes,
and my daughter,
there are no sports.
We have to raise $16,000 for our kids to have the sports that other kids have, and with no notice.
And not only that, the Snyder thing, like right now they're bombing Iraq. They spend billions of dollars bombing this nation, killing children and killing everyone in the name of a war against terrorists. But I mean, like, this is terrible, the school where my daughter goes, there is no sports, but they have money to buy airplanes and bombs and this intelligence to destroy a whole nation.
Lee, are you still on the phone? Okay, she's gone. Getting out and voting has got to be pretty important.
I can let you know 2 places you can go to register.
Okay.
The Hispanic Center of West Michigan. They have forms in Spanish or English. Also, the Community Link Revitalization on the corner of Madison and Hall, right across from the library. You can register up till October 6th. So registration is totally free, doesn't cost
Absolutely.
you a penny. They have someone right inside that building that will sign you right up. I even have forms. You can call Cindy Hicks Realtor, and I have forms, and I'm registering people to vote.
Good for you,
So
Cindy.
if you move, you still have to register. If you move out of where you last voted, out of that district, you would still have to register?
Yeah, you can change your address, and I also have news. I did check with an attorney today. There is a myth out there that you can't vote if you're a felony. That only applies in Florida. So,
Well, some other states, not in Michigan.
yep, not in
states, yeah.
Michigan. So
Not
if
in
you have
Michigan.
felonies and you're not registered to vote, please go find somebody, go to the Secretary of State, get yourself registered. And Terry Lynn Land has cost you dearly with your driving. She took away driver's licenses for immigrants that currently don't have a visa in the back of their passport. And I'm sure Pablo can share with you the costs on insurance. All of us pay extra money for insurance now. The rates are sky high. We don't get cars. The car industry is suffering. Well, immigrants aren't buying cars. So
Yeah, like immigrants, many immigrants work on the fields, in the apple fields, and they had to drive long distances. They had to drive 10, 20 miles, 40 miles sometimes to go to their place. And they had to rely on people who have driver's license. And most of the immigrants don't have driver's license because Terry Land didn't allow it to.
Well, that's
He
not
just
the only
cut-
way she's shown her preference for
she was the
workers
reason they're
or for-
gone. Mhm.
Pardon
She
me?
decided.
She decided. She removed the
immigrants
licenses.
Won't have driver's license, and
Yeah.
she's proud of that. You know.
Well, she's proud of it because she's going to her own constituency who are the anti-immigrant people, and I'm so sorry we're running out of time, so I'm going to have to give you 2 minutes to make your central statement, and then 1 minute to each one, and then we're going to be out. I'm sorry, Pablo.
Well, quickly I can say that. Well, what you don't know about immigration is that many people try to do the right thing. You know, many people like Mexicans. You go to the U.S. Embassy in Mexico, and you say, "Well, I want to go to the United States the proper way. I want to get a visa," and the U.S. government says, "Well, if you want to get a visa, you have to show me that you have a bank account, you have that you own a house, that you have a job here." So practically, they are telling to people who want to immigrate to the United States from Mexico, they say only the rich people can come to the United States. If you are poor and you want to come here and work in the apple fields or in other fields or professional fields, you have to be a wealthy person, you know, somebody who has to can afford to get a visa in the U.S. Embassy. And I'm telling you this because many people think that, well, immigrants are here and don't have documents because they don't want to get documents. That is not true. No, that is not the case. You know, it's extremely difficult to get a visa to come to the United States. And once you are here, you know, you have to learn English. You have to go to school. And so people most of the immigrants, like 90%, take the jobs the U.S. citizens don't want to take. We don't take jobs, we create jobs, you know, like there's the whole industry, like the food industry, services, other industries, they employ immigrants because there are jobs that all immigrants are willing to do.
Studies show that immigrants contribute a great deal to all local economies, and we should be considering our future instead of trying to suppress demographic changes. Embrace them for everybody. A minute apiece.
I'll be real quick.
Let's go. Okay, you go.
I was going to
Cindy.
say we lost $90 million last year. Couldn't find enough immigrants to pick our apples off the trees. So yeah, last year not having driver's licenses for immigrants did cost the state a lot of money. So I'm not telling you who to vote for, but if you want to vote for people that aren't out to ruin the economy through their own hateful biases, vote on the blue side of the ticket. At least you'll be assured that people give a rip about you. So go ahead and
Cindy.
I'll work hard towards better housing policies, at least in the sector that I'm in.
Hey, everybody's family's got to eat, come on, open up your heart. And open up your heart for these kids and these poor people from this building and the belongings they lost. Because it could have happened to you, and it could. And so the whole thing is, let's make sure the vermin law does pass for us. Again, it's Michigan Supreme Court, 925 West Ottawa Street, Lansing, Michigan. The zip code's 48915. And the Morton House case number is 149953. Please, send them a letter. Tell them we deserve justice, especially the children. If it was your child, I'd fight for your child. So do the same for us.
Thank you, John. And net neutrality.
Net neutrality. If you haven't sent a message to your reps yet, you can do that. I don't remember the name of the website, but yeah, we need net neutrality. If we didn't have it, you would miss it. We don't want to turn into a China or Egypt.
So what is net neutrality, and what do we stand to lose? Who wants to change it? Is it a corporate monopolization of the internet?
Correct. Yep. They want to charge fees for viewing, fees for services. So, they're making a profit, and they're greedy. They want to keep making a profit, and we wouldn't have access to what we have access to now, the information.
It seems like they want to save all the good things in life for the rich and squeeze the life out of everybody else.
Go vote. Get registered. October 6th, before October 6th.
Democrat. Vote Democrat.
I vote Jesus, man. The whole world.
I
needs
vote for
peace
liberation.
together instead of hating one another.
Well, Jesus was a communist.
A socialist.
Socialist.
Was it? You're one who would like to sit at the same table and speak together.
For the poor people.
I respect all babies. I respect Chinese babies, Russian babies. We finally filmed the video and we sent it to